Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Today we're going to be making a pattern that uses 2.5-inch strips. The pattern I'm going to make is called Strip Tube Lattice. So I'm going to want to get some jelly rolls that will look good here, and I think these green ones here, this will look really nice in the pattern. So we're going to need 4 packs because we're going to make a little bit bigger of a quilt today. The only other thing we need is a background, and I'm going to want to use a light batik background. So any of these would work, but I think this really light one here will make the best background. For this size, the size we're going to make here, which is the twin size, we need 70 strips. Now I've got a total of 80 here, but some of them are going to be a little bit too light and won't give us quite enough contrast between themselves and the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is open these up and pull off the very lightest ones, because those just don't give us enough color difference. So we're going to use all the darker ones. So I'm going to pull out 70 strips total that I like. I have 70 strips that will work well, and we need to cut each strip in half. So I'm just going to put my scissors in the middle and cut it in half, and then grab the next one and cut it in half right along the fold. Now we're going to cut some strips out of the background fabric. Once you have all of those cut, we are also going to split all of these along the fold. I have 2 of my half strips, 2 different colors here, and then I've got the same number of the background strips, and I'm going to make strip units with these. So I'm going to take this one, put them right sides together, sew a careful 1/4 inch seam, and just make sure you don't stretch either one. Just go right along the edge, but don't stretch the top or the bottom. And this goes pretty fast. Now I'm going to take the other matching one, but this time I'm going to put the background on the top, and I'm going to stitch them together. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other pair here. Now I'm just going to slide these back, and I am going to finger press all of these to the right. So to finger press, I'm going to kind of open it up and then just slide my fingernail or even the pad of your finger right down there. So all of them, open them up, put that seam allowance to the right. Even though I finger pressed them, I still want to iron them nice and flat. Now I have a nice straight board here that my ironing cover is on, so I'm going to put this down here near the bottom because I know this is straight, and then when I smooth this out I can make sure I don't want to smooth it out with a little curve. I want to smooth it out nice and straight. So I'm going to go down with no steam and come back with a little steam. Now we're going to pair these up. This strip unit has the seam allowance going towards the dark fabric. I'm going to take this green one where the seam allowance is going towards the light fabric. I'm going to put them right sides together. So these are going to match up, but the seam allowances in the middle are going opposite directions. And I'm going to do the same thing with the second set here. So the seam allowance is going that way, and on the back it's going up. So again, they're going to nest. Now we're going to stitch down both sides of this strip unit here, of these strip units. So I'm just going to use the same 1/4 inch. And they're exactly the same width right now, and it's very quick again to just stitch right down there. Now we'll turn it around, go down the other side. Now we're ready to cut these strip tubes, because that's what it is. It's a little tube, using our strip tube ruler. The pattern will give you directions for doing the cutting if you don't have this ruler, but the ruler makes it go much faster and it's very accurate. So we're going to take the line on here, the 5.5 inch line, and we're going to put it on our stitching line, not on the raw edge. Put it on the stitching line and go ahead and cut a triangle. So what happens, because it's a tube, when you cut the triangle is you end up with a square. So I'm going to go ahead and move the triangle around and cut one from here and one from here, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other strip tube. From those two tube units, we're going to get 4 blocks that look like this, that have light in the middle, and we are going to set those aside because those are going to be used later on in the border. And then we have 4 blocks that look like this. So let's work with these blocks first. We're going to open these up and iron the seam allowance to one side, and iron that seam allowance so that it's going the same direction as these 2 previous seams. So they're all going one direction, and then snip off the dog ears. Now take your 4 blocks and lay them out so they make a nice big X here. And you want to lay them so that your seam allowances are going in a spiral. So these seam allowances are all going that way. The next block is all pointing down that way. And the reason we do that is so that when we sew these all together, the seam allowances will nest, and it'll be real easy to match those intersections. Now, when you finger press these, it helps if you press it, but don't stretch it as you go. Just smash it a little bit, because that'll make the ironing go much easier. But it'll distort if you pull it along here. You want to try to keep them all square, but they're all bias. They're all bias edges, so be a little bit careful. Go ahead and make these blocks with all the rest of your strips. Now that the blocks are done, we can start laying out the quilt. So I like to put all the blocks out. We're going to do 5 blocks wide and 7 blocks tall. And once I have them laid out, I'm going to switch things around so that I have a nice color balance. Remember these pieced blocks we had left over when we were cutting all the patchwork? We're going to use those for a border. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a plain border on first. So this is going to go all the way around the quilt. It's going to go all the way around. Then these guys are going to go on the outside of this plain border. So we're going to fill in the corner here. And then we are just going to make our way all the way down. So you can turn them around so you have nice colors next to each other. So if you don't like that color, spin it around and do that. And these will go all the way around the quilt. And then we're going to put another plain border after that. Then we can get it on the quilting machine. Here are my thread choices for this quilt. We've got some greens and then we've got some neutrals. Now the green, this one's pretty dark. It's going to show quite a bit on the light. And this one will show less, if I can get some off of there, but will still show. This guy, it's going to blend in pretty well in the light, and this one's going to completely blend in, but it might show too much on the dark area here. So I think this will be our best choice. For the quilting pattern, I've chosen one called Wild Roses. It has flowers, but it's not going to look real flowery once the quilt is done because they're pretty muted. And here's what it looks like when we repeat the whole row. So it's going to just recede right into all that patchwork. Now that the whole quilt is done, it turned out nice and big, and I love that patchwork in the middle, and the pieced border just makes it. So that pieced border is between 2 solider borders. So it just looks like it's floating there. Now when you put this on the bed, those borders are going to be hanging down the side, and all this patchwork is going to be on top of the bed. It's going to look so cool. I really like how some of the blocks make a box here, some make an X. There's just a lot going on. The quilting pattern, you can't see that there's flowers. It's just a nice, smooth overall look. And you can see it from the back side. And I had a lot of extra blocks left over. These are the border blocks. I had enough to do one whole piece thing all the way down the back of the quilt. So that's these same blocks that are here, and I just put 2 of them together into a long row right where I would have pieced the back. That's a really easy method, a really good way to use up your extra patchwork. Thanks for watching our tutorial today on how to make the strip tube lattice quilt. We hope you enjoyed it. Now, we're going to have another giveaway. This pattern is called Radiant. You may have seen our tutorial when we showed you how to make it. This is a nice lap size quilt. It's got really intricate quilting on it, all out of batiks. Really easy to enter. Just go to our website or click the link below that says giveaway and put in your email address and your name. Good luck. Now, if you don't want to miss any of our tutorials, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Happy quilting!